Hello students, in this video we are going to do the explanation of the topic Sufism, and then we'll move forward to the next topic, that is influence of Christianity. So here let's begin with Sufism. So the word Sufism is basically taken from the word Sufi, and the word Sufi has come from the Arabic word which means Suf. This can be taken in two different ways. Suf means wool, and it was used for the mystics who used to wear only a very rough sort of cloth, and that was the Suf garment in which these particular mystics used to wear the garments, that particular fabric we are talking about. According to some scholars, the word Sufi has been derived from the word Safa. Now this Safa is basically Saf, in your English it is given as SAFA, Safa, but it means Saf. Saf is basically clear, clean, or purity. It shows purity. Besides that, Sufism came to India through the Turkish rulers. As we know, Sufism came with the Turks, like the Ghaznis and the Ghori, and then along with them their culture, Turkish culture. They started a movement of preaching religious tolerance, as they were teaching the topic of religious tolerance, brotherhood, oneness of God. So that is how the Sufism became quite prevalent over here in India. They held that all religion are different paths, but they are all taking to the same God. That means they are all different ways to reach to the same God. The Sufi saints of Persia and Central Asia were organized into 12 orders, and these orders were known as, basically called as silsilas. The word silsila literally means a chain. That is an order of saints. So that chain of saints was known as the silsila of the saints, signifying that there is a continuous link between the master and the disciple. So the leaders of the order was basically called as the Peer, and the followers were known as the Murids. Murid means someone who is the disciple or the follower of the Peer. A wali was nominated by the Peer. A wali was nominated by the Peer as his successor. So wali was W-A-L-I. Wali was the one who was going to be the new successor, who is going to be the new Peer after that particular Peer. So that taking up his responsibilities and his particular hereditary, whatever it is. So that means he became the successor of that Peer. The Sufi saints who settled in India belonged to the Chishti and Suhrawardi orders. So it is very important, it might be asked in your questions in your exams, what particular order they belonged to. You should remember they belong to Chishti and Suhrawardi groups. Then we talk about the doctrines of Sufism. So here we see in the book it is given as the following points. First of all, it is unity of all religion. As we know, they taught that all religion are different ways going or leading to the same God. So they believed in unity of all religion. Next was, one can reach God through personal devotion. As we know, we have read about Kabir also, we have read about Guru Nanak also, and all the other such particular the Bhakti movement. They all taught that personal devotion is the most important thing, rather getting into the rituals and ceremonies which are basically you don't even understand the use of them. It's better that you have an interpersonal relationship with your God, and that is what is required. Next was, individual soul is the manifestation of Supreme God, and human soul would finally merge with it. So it is, you must have heard about Atma Paramatma ka Ansha. So that was the same thing, that individual soul ultimately will merge into the soul of the divine being. So that is what our main aim should be. Equality and brotherhood of all human beings was another important principle and doctrine of Sufism. Besides that, inner purity and self-discipline was profoundly, you can say, preached by the Sufism in gaining the knowledge of God. So that was considered to be the most important thing for knowing God. Now, we have seen that these were the various doctrines which were given by Sufism or Sufi saints. But what was the impact of these particular teachings? Here we see, first, it fostered the feeling of Hindu-Muslim unity, because they always believe that these religions are dividing the people, but we should find the unity in the religion. And there is profound unity in the religion. There are many different things which can be used to unite them together, and that is why they promoted Hindu-Muslim unity. Many principles of Sufism were very related to or similar to the Bhakti cult, the Bhakti movement, whatever the Bhakti saints said or preached. It was very similar to that what Sufi saints preached. So that was another reason which made this. It led to the popularity of Bhakti movement also. At the same time, even the popularity of Sufism also, despite of any particular religious clan they belonged to. Next was Sufism played a great role in promoting feelings of tolerance among the rulers. So even rulers were now you can say tolerant enough towards the people from in their kingdom belonging to other religious groups or following other religious paths, and that is how religious tolerance was, you can say, some way or the other it was achieved to a greater extent. Fourth point, people irrespective of their religion began to understand and appreciate others' faith. It was not communal hatred, not intolerance towards others' faith, but rather as religious tolerance and you can say understanding of different faith came to being, then it was very easy for people to understand and correlate and respect each other's belief and faith. Sufism made its influence on the poets of this period, like we can say Amir Khusro or Malik Muhammad Jasi. They composed many of the Persian and Hindi poems, and they are all in the praises of the Sufi principles. Whatever the principles, doctrines Sufism preached, they were all related, and you can say manifesting them, understanding and explaining them in a better way, these poems. Then we talk about one important character we are talking about over here, one important Sufi saint, and that is Hazrat Nizamuddin. He was one of the famous Sufi saint, and as we know that the Sufi saints in India were mainly from the Chishti order, so he was also from the Chishti order and believed in drawing close to God through the renunciation of the world. That means renouncing or leaving everything in the worldly realm. He was born in Badaयूं in Uttar Pradesh. You must, if you have ever been to Uttar Pradesh, you must have heard this name Nizamuddin. So it is related to that particular thing. And then we say at the age of 5, after the death of his father, he came to Delhi with his mother. And at the age of 20, Nizamuddin went to Ajodhan. Ajodhan is basically at the present Pakpatan Sharif in Pakistan. So it is now in Pakistan. So he went over there later onwards after his father's death. Baba Farid, Nizamuddin and many other such saints, Baba Farid became the disciple of Nizamuddin, and many other such Sufi saints came under his teachings. Besides that, we see that he visited Ajodhan each year to spend, we are talking about many of the kings. They became his followers and they visited Ajodhan each year to spend the month of Ramzan in the presence of Baba Farid. And so this is how we can say Nizamuddin became one of the common person or famous person who was followed by many of the Sufi saints, and they you can say follow most of his teachings, preachings and whatever. He has been setting an example for the other Sufi saints. Besides that, we see you can say Hazrat Nizamuddin, like his predecessors, stressed love as means of realizing God. And for him, love of God implied in loving all the human beings. That means love for the humanity. His vision of the world was marked by a highly evolved sense of secularity and kindness. That means he also prophesied the religious tolerance. Now some of the important key beliefs that Hazrat Nizamuddin had, they can be taken in points. First is renunciation and complete trust in God. That means renouncing the worldly realm and following God with all his trust. Next is the unity of mankind and shunning distinction based on the social as well as economic and religious distinctions. That means each individual should be respected for being an individual rather than being a Hindu or a Muslim or for any other such distinction. Helping the needy, feeding the hungry became sympathetic to the oppressed, and all these things, like you can say doing good in the society, social things, they were considered to be an important teaching of the or key beliefs of the Hazrat. Next, we see strong disapproval of mixing with the sultans, the prince and the nobles. That means not getting into the political or the worldly scenarios of the kingship and the other such prince and the nobles. And lastly, we see an uncompromising attitude towards all forms of political and social oppression. That means social and political oppression is done on the people. You should always remain away from it and not getting involved in that. So these were the various important teachings or key beliefs that were given by Hazrat Nizamuddin. So this is all that we have in this particular Sufi saint. Next we have the influence of Christianity, that we are talking about Saint Francis Xavier, and later onwards what was the impact of Christian missionaries in our country, and that too in regards to the composite culture. So that we'll do in the coming up chapter, and along with that we will be doing the question answers of the chapter. So please be ready with your chapters. When we have done this particular chapter, almost we are at the end of the chapter, only the last topic is left about the Christianity influence. So please go through this particular all these topics that we have done so far, and after that we will be working on the last topic as well as the question answers. So with this we come to the end of the topic.